We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens. Within a century or two, Earth will be dominated by entities that are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees. Because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. Those who control the data control the future of life itself. Humanity will split not into classes, it will split into different species. We've reached the point when we can hack human beings and other organisms, especially biometric data. Data about what is happening inside my body and inside my brain. That organisms, whether viruses or bananas or humans, they are really just biochemical algorithms. And we are learning how to decipher these algorithms. Is the biometric sensor that translates biochemical processes in the body and the brain into electronic signals that a computer can store and analyze. The algorithm tracks your eye movements, your blood pressure, your brain activity, and tells you who you are. Once we have algorithms that can understand me better than I understand myself, they could predict my desires and even take decisions on my behalf. Then humans will come to live under the rule of digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it.
Natural selection is replaced by intelligent design. The era of inorganic life is now beginning.
In the coming decades, AI and biotechnology will give us godlike abilities to re-engineer life and even to create completely new life forms. We are about to enter a new era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. Our intelligent design.
We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens.
Welcome back to the End Time Shepherd channel as we complete this long, arduous journey exploring in full the reason for this reveal of the Epstein Files, as well as everything else that's going on around us and what we can expect moving forward. Everything left unsaid, everything left unanswered is going to be covered in full in this video. And I should preface by saying, as always, nothing that I'm sharing today is meant to cause division, hatred, animosity. It's not judging, it's not mocking or ridiculing. This is a channel about various different faiths, what I believe, what we Christians believe, what some others in this world believe, and in a world where there are so many lies to unpack about what's true, what's not, in terms of history, in terms of our faith. In many ways, I'm also teaching proper history. So all this is just to make clear before we get rolling here that anything that I share today, I have no opinion on. I believe everyone's entitled to their own beliefs, even if it's something that's completely antithetical to what I believe. And in many cases, some of the more sensitive information I will be showing here isn't even coming out of my own lips. It's coming straight from the source. But at any rate, that was more for YouTube. Now, as for you, the viewer, I greatly appreciate you coming this far. I am very aware of and respectful of the fact that for many of you watching this is surreal. In addition to it being like drinking from a fire hose if you got a lot of catching up to do. But a recurring theme is I keep showing you how far in advance, how long they've been showing their hand. It's only blatant because so much of the news coverage is around Jeffrey Epstein, the right-left divide, because that's another part of this, as always, division. And as you've seen and as you're going to see even further in this video, he wasn't just a random man they decided to expose. He's at the center of a lot of what's going on. And for those who like to believe or who like to kid themselves that you could be friends, you could be associates for many years with people like Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, the Clintons, and somehow be squeaky clean, well, I speak in truth on this channel, and that's a fairy tale. We have very few ways to know who's on our side and who's not. For doing this for so long and talking to so many different family members, my loved ones, my close inner circle, it's very frustrating and very challenging, almost a miracle, to turn people away from the indoctrination, the lies that they crammed into our heads by repetition over and over and over again in school. This is why they teach you the same thing over and over again at a young age when you're most impressionable, because then once it's in there, it's difficult to get it out. And once you complete your Freemasonic education, which was overhauled when the Rockefellers took over, which they did with our medical system, which they're also trying to tear down and replace with AI medicine, which we'll cover in this video. If you do a good job regurgitating the lies, the fake history, etc., that you're taught in the indoctrination camps known as school, the very Masons who created this educational system slap a mortarboard on your head, truth in plain sight, and then mocking us without most ever knowing. Time wasted when they could be teaching you practical things like how to invest, how to grow your own food, how to build, how to change a tire, anything you could actually use. But instead, we learn things like Spanish, French, calculus, chemistry, biology, physics, fake history, of course. Because what they want, and John D. Rockefeller said this, is he wants a nation of workers, not thinkers. So it's not only the indoctrination that makes it so difficult to shake people out of this trance that they're in, believing in a world that isn't even real. It's just meant to engineer and manipulate and have you siding with the very people who want your destruction. But in addition to that, in 1 John 4:4, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. I'm sure people have heard that before if they're Christian, but what does that mean? Who is in John? The Holy Spirit. And who's in the world? The ruler of the world, Satan. And so what we're up against too is the very sin that caused Lucifer to rebel, pride. And that is the Antichrist spirit, because Christ was all about humility. In fact, for anyone who still needs some proof that the Bible's real, which I would find absolutely amazing, but trying to cast a wide net and make this series as palatable, as understandable for anyone who's coming here, no matter how asleep or awake they are. But Isaiah the prophet was preaching truth and messages of hope, delivering messages directly from God. This is a man who saw heaven, saw a lot. And another thing he saw, over 500 years before Jesus Christ came into the world, Isaiah 53:4. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. He took up our pain, he bore our suffering, he was pierced for our transgressions, our sins, our offenses against God. By his wounds we are healed. Very, very clear who Isaiah was referring to. 500 years plus before Jesus came into his ministry. But that also reinforces what I was saying about Jesus coming here not as a conqueror, but showing us humility is the way, not pride. And pride is the very thing that prevents so many people to wake up to the truth, because they don't want to admit that they were wrong. And the reality is we were all lied to. It's just a matter of whether you can accept it or not. The truth is still the truth, whether you want to believe it or not. And again, as always, none of this is happening because I'm talking about it. People have been talking about it for a long time, and it's fallen on deaf ears. But in going back to 1 John, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And pride is the very reason why people don't lean on God for their own understanding and are guided by the Holy Spirit. They don't think they need God. They think they can figure this out on their own. They don't think the devil's real, and if he is real, They think they can handle them by themselves. They are no match. No one is. Myself included, of course. Right along with that, let's read 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 12. What we have received is not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, so that we may understand what God has freely given us. This is what we speak, not in words taught us by human wisdom, but in words taught by the Spirit, explaining spiritual realities with Spirit-taught words. The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness and cannot understand them because they are discerned only through the Spirit. The person with the Spirit makes judgment about all things, but such a person is not subject to merely human judgments, for who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness, and cannot understand them because they are discerned only through the Spirit. Goes right in line with what I've been saying. As frustrating as it is for me to look around, and maybe you're in the trenches along with me, you're trying to do the same thing. You've been awake to the truth. You're trying to help your loved ones. You're always looking for more ammo. We're all the body of Christ. No one has a monopoly on great ideas. But as frustrating as it is that people won't wake up no matter how much you show them, and they think they're smart because they can remember what was beaten into their head 12 years straight in school, and they're able to Google something. Like, these people don't realize that, hey, we learn the exact same thing. We all have access to Google and AI too. We all went to college. We all know what we're supposed to believe. But the reason they can't accept it is their pride, and also that they're not led by the Spirit. That's why they consider what we're talking about foolishness. And they can't understand things discerned only through the Spirit when they're looking through the lens of what they were taught in a world of lies, ruled by the father of lies. No one is on any kind of level to battle one-on-one, go toe-to-toe, alone with Lucifer. But if you are guided by the Spirit is greater than the devil that's in the world, because the Spirit is God. That, to my understanding, after all these years of being awake to the truth of this world, is the reason why so many people can't accept the truth, won't accept the truth, can't find the truth, and are marching right through the wide gate thinking that they're saved. Pride. They refuse to lean on the Holy Spirit. Even people who can recite chapter and verse have been tricked for years with celebrities, athletes, all these false idols, Instagram culture, teaching everyone to be their own idol. Just like these people. They're teaching you to be wicked just like them, because they believe they're their own God, just like their father, the devil. And if that sounds harsh, I'm also just going by what's in prophecy, what Jesus said in the book of Revelation. I know what's coming. I'm about to share that with you. And for people that can't even handle the concept of what's coming, how are they going to be able to deal with it when it actually comes and they're in the heat of the moment? So we have to be led by the Spirit. If for no other reason than self-preservation, lean on God. He's there to protect us. He's calling us home. For most, it's falling on deaf ears. For a few, everything happening right now, though scary, makes perfect sense. And once you get to the point where you could accept the truth, you start to realize that things playing out according to the Bible is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Because that means the heaven's real. That means you have no worries. The war was won long ago on the cross. We need only endure. And there's a lot to endure. But it's temporary. This too shall pass. Now, another thing discerned through the Spirit, during Trump's second campaign with Elon following him around like a puppy dog, everyone who's awake, everyone who's dialed in, Christian, truther is really just someone who's got this world figured out, realizes and accepts the truth. What we just said, led by the Spirit. We saw something awfully alarming with Elon following Trump around everywhere. Every rally, they're hanging out at Thanksgiving together, New Year's Eve together. Little X was at the White House. But we're in the present day now. So this is just theory crafting. But if you're led by the Spirit, you have a lot of confidence. Because it's not me forming these opinions on my own. I'm leaning not on my own understanding. And once you're led by the Spirit, it's going to be very easy for you to see through the lies moving forward. Very easy. To the point where it's going to drive you crazy that other people can't see it. Trust me on that. Let's read Revelation 13 so we know what we're looking for. Starting with the beast out of the sea. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. People worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worshipped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who live in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. Whoever has eyes, let them hear. If anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. So that's the Antichrist. And you heard the dragon, Satan, gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. Now, the beast out of the earth, this is called the false prophet. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of the man. That number is 666. Performing great wonders, false miracles, the 2 beasts being in the presence of each other, great deceivers, blasphemous words, pride, boasting. You see how it's checking a lot of boxes here? And let's be honest, with this whole Epstein saga and their full reveal to bait us into wanting to tear down the system, because people don't realize that when they tear something down, you're not getting an upgrade. But then again, this isn't anyone's fault. That's not what I'm insinuating. This is God's plan. It has to happen. But after all this, after everyone knows what these people do to the innocent and that no justice will be served, what 2 people are going to come along and gains people's trust? I just don't see it. I could be wrong. But after you watch the proof that I have, the supporting evidence, you'll see why I'm more than 90% sure. It's pretty conclusive. And remember also, with the beast out of the earth, the false prophet, because of the signs it was given to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image, in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. Now, I'm sure back in 90 AD, when the Apostle John first delivered this message, people couldn't fathom how could an image speak, and how could you command someone to worship an image? Well, think about the times we're living in. I showed you conclusively the mark of the beast technology, which most people believe to be Neuralink. I showed you the patents, BCIs, your phone being inside of you, among other things that it'll be able to do, connecting to the beast system, Starlink, the AI data centers, Palantir, to connect you to the internet at all times, the Internet of Bodies, the Tower of Babel, connecting the nations directly through 6G. But remember that the Antichrist is going to be an inversion of Jesus Christ. So whereas Jesus came and performed real miracles, raised Lazarus from the dead, raised himself from the dead, walked on water, made the lame walk, the blind see, and the deaf hear, he performed real miracles through the Holy Spirit. But the Antichrist and the false prophet, they're frauds, just like Trump and Elon themselves. And so their miracles are going to be counterfeit, fraudulent, deceptions. So Elon, he's already pushing AI, space, transhumanism. He's going to fake sending people to Mars in the same way he faked sending a car into space. Him pretending years ago to send a car into space, which he actually had the gall to say, it looks so fake, it has to be real. Well, if you watch the film and you pause it at the right time, say there, you can see very clearly that nope, it was filmed in a studio, just a deception from a master deceiver. And in actuality, it looks so fake because it is so fake. He's likely to be hailed as a miracle worker with Neuralink when it's all a deception. These people are not, I repeat, not in the business of preserving and saving our lives, caring about our health. That should be very clear after living through COVID. They're all buddy-buddy with Bill Gates. Fauci got a commendation. He's a Freemason. It's one big cabal. None of these people are your friends. You just feel like that because you think you could trust people that are on TV, when in reality, they wouldn't be on TV unless they were part of it. But what else did COVID do? Well, they were also able to find out how malleable people are, how easily manipulated they are through fear, how willing they are to exchange their freedom for peace and safety. Remember that? Like Peter Thiel said, 1 Thessalonians, peace and safety, sudden destruction comes upon them, and they will not escape. Well, the goal here with Elon, with Peter Thiel, with Sam Altman, with Larry Ellison, everyone Trump's buddy-buddy with, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, Yuval, I've shown you again and again and again. They're all in lockstep. The illusion is that you have a side pushing back, because if people didn't think that, they wouldn't feel so confident. And what is transhumanism? Well, it's yet another prophecy being fulfilled from Daniel's vision when he saw the mixing of iron and clay. God is the potter, we're the clay, according to Isaiah. Clay is flesh, iron means a machine, and they want to fuse man and machine, iron and clay. They're playing God, and they're making an abomination out of his creation, because that's what Satanists do. Look around at your far left depiction, whatever your stereotype is, the girl with the pink hair, with tattoos and earrings all over her face. Look at what they trick people into doing with God's creation. And again, we don't get upgrades, we get downgrades. And you look at guys like Elon, Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, and you have to wonder, based on what they used to look like and what they look like now and how they could barely even form a sentence, if they've already undergone this transformation. Because remember, these people don't want to end their lives because they know darn well where they'd be heading. They're trying to live forever. That's what all these headlines are about immortality. And they're dangling it out there for people like us, even though we're supposed to forsake this world and want to get out of here to be with God. But most people love their lives. They love this world. It's the most versus the few, always. And so you have Neuralink. They're already putting out this propaganda, how it's working miracles, and people that couldn't do this before, but now they can. They're able to walk and see. Could it be real? We're told that the false prophet's supposed to perform fake miracles, but I don't know. But if you can't see it with your own two eyes in 2026, I don't trust it. You shouldn't either. And even if it is real, when push comes to shove, and they start offering this to everybody, you don't know if they're going to pull the old switcheroo. They always do.
Right now, there's a shortage of doctors and great surgeons. You're a doctor yourself.
Yeah.
Super long time to learn to be a good doctor. And even then, the knowledge is constantly evolving. It's
Yes.
hard to keep up with everything. Doctors have limited time. They make mistakes. How many great surgeons are there? Not that many great surgeons.
When do you think Optimus will be a better surgeon than the best surgeons? How long for that?
3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
3 years
All-
at scale.
Yes.
There'll
Yeah.
probably be more Optimus robots that are great surgeons than there are all surgeons on Earth.
And let me just say as an aside, because I know there are people who are really into tech, these things like the internet, artificial intelligence, robots, humanoid robots, cyborgs, digital currency, these could all be great things if they were in the right hands. But they're not. They're in the wrong hands, evil people who hate us, And that technology came from the fallen angels who rebelled against God. So do the math.
So you have to say, like, how could AI go wrong? Well, if AI gets programmed by the extinctionists, its utility function will be the extinction of humanity.
And also remember this. Always remember this. If they put something in your body, that's a double-edged sword. If it has the power to preserve your life, it has the power to take it as well. And remember who we're dealing with: deceivers, people who worship Lucifer voluntarily, and who are trying to usher in the Antichrist. So you tell me if you'd want to put that in your body, especially when it's getting shilled by someone like this, Elon's mom.
I think he's the genius of the world, and people are loving him for that. They don't, when they see me, they go crazy because I'm his mother, but they love him because of what he does, and they respect him, and I'm very proud of him.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be his mother, watching him go from PayPal to rockets to Tesla to all just one thing after another. You ever surprised about what he's coming up with next?
Well, every time I'm surprised, and every time I say, don't take on something else. And he doesn't listen to me. And then he makes a big change. And this Neuralink, people saying, why I don't want something in my head. I said, well, you aren't paralyzed. So, or you aren't blind.
Good point.
If you're blind and you don't want to see, then you can argue the point. You don't have to have a chip in your head. I think he's the genius of the world. And this Neuralink, people saying, why I don't want something in my head. I said, well, you aren't paralyzed. So, or you aren't blind.
Good point.
If you're blind and you don't want to see, then you can argue the point. You don't have to have a chip in your head. A chip in your head. A chip in your head.
Fox News, trusted network by the conservatives, right? No, just one of the many networks, because they all are, owned by BlackRock. Yet people still can't understand that they're not getting any real news. And who's good buddies with Larry Fink, owner of BlackRock? Oh, that would be Donald Trump. Larry Fink, Elon Musk, they were both at the World Economic Forum, along with Trump. Yet somehow these people, Trump and Elon, could go to the World Economic Forum, and the headline in the conservative networks is that they went there to oppose the big machine. They really showed Larry Fink and Klaus Schwab what's up. They put them in their place. No, they didn't. No, he didn't. But the cell phone in your body, a BCI, a brain-computer interface. Elon talks about it. Bill Gates talks about it. You saw they unearthed the Nokia CEO saying that the cell phone in your hand will no longer be the most dominant interface. Peace, safety, convenience, trends, bells and whistles, these are all worldly things people just blindly follow. But convenience, what do they tell you? Well, if you have this in your body, you're not going to have to go to a doctor. Doctors get things wrong. We already have AI outperforming doctors. This will monitor your health 24/7, 365. You won't even have to worry about it. It'll keep you healthy. Yes, let's race to 6G so our internet's so much faster. When has anyone noticed any kind of faster download speeds or internet speeds going all the way to 5G? Me neither. But the brain-computer interface, it all connects to blockchain technology and 6G.
So we're into 6G now. I just finished 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting that done. And now they're up to 6.
Let's do it again.
What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how perfect it is?
So when people wonder how there's going to be a mark of the beast, where it's going to prevent you from buying or selling if you don't take it, this is exactly how it works. Tech goes in your body, connects to 6G, connects to your social credit score with Palantir, monitoring everything you do or say. And if you don't take it, you won't be able to buy or sell. And if you say something wrong or do something wrong, you won't be able to buy or sell. There are certain things you won't be able to do. And since they can't darn well put us all in prison cells, they've tricked us since COVID into turning our house into a prison. Another part of taking down the system entailed the stage psyop of Luigi Mangione getting locked up because the system refused to pay a bill to save his family or whatever the case was. I don't even pay attention to most of these stories. I just know the overarching premise. And when I see the story, as you should moving forward, you should immediately take a look at it and listen to what they're saying the solution is. Try to identify where they're steering you towards. What are they trying to make you feel? Well, in this case, they're trying to rile you up and make you against the system. The very system they're trying to tear down and replace with AI. And that's another thing with Elon, Neuralink, fake miracles, AI medicine, to where Elon's already saying you can upload your medical records to Grok and he'll take a look at it. And more you're going to hear that these very heroes they propped up during COVID, when their time comes up in the script, it'll be time to tear down those heroes and replace them with AI and expose just how overpaid they are. And this is not meant to offend anyone, but they purposely set up the medical system so these doctors are just teaching things that are pure Luciferian Rockefeller nonsense.
It is the second most prevalent liquid on Earth. Putting a price on oil is like putting a price on a pail of water. No initial cost, it's in the ground. And in those days, they were, some of it, almost what you'd call surface mining the oil. They didn't go down deep. So in order to get the price up, they hit on the idea that they would have to make it appear to be scarce. That after we take the next few barrels out, we're probably going to have to close as well, that kind of thing. But a very fortuitous event. In 1892, there was a convention in Geneva of scientists to determine what organic substances are. At this Geneva Convention, Rockefeller took advantage of sending some scientists over. They defined oil as the residue from formerly living matter. Well, that makes it a fossil fuel. And another thing we should know is that there has never been a real fossil found below 16,000 feet. We mine oil, or we drill for oil, at 30,000, 33,000, 28,000 every day of the week. So right there, we rule it out that it isn't fossil fuel. It's called fossil fuel for the minds of the public to feel that it is an asset that is running out, being depleted. We talk about depletion allowance, which is a lot of, and actually, if you know the world's oil supply, you know that it is not going to run out for an awfully long time. What bothers me is that in geology books, it's in there. The geologists say it's a fossil fuel. Somehow they've been bought to create a world price for oil. In other words, not 30 cents a gallon here and 90 cents a gallon there, but let's get a world price. That's their goal.
Rockefeller was the best monopolist we've ever had. So we had a monopoly on oil and then transport and things like that. And they busted it up. So what did he do? One thing he did, people don't know this, the original Model T Ford ran on corn alcohol. So a farmer could make their own fuel in their field. Why do you think he spent $1 million on funding prohibition for 8 years, which banned all fermentation, not just for drinking alcohol? Just long enough to get gas stations based on petroleum out there. And then, why did he fund the formation of the American Medical Association to go after and destroy natural medicine? Because pharmaceutical ingredients are all petroleum. So the big pharma companies were spun out of big oil companies. So big oil funded big chemical, and these big chemical companies funded big pharma. And they all come from the Rockefeller monopolistic thing. And even the latest evil stuff like the Bill Gates things going on, people don't know this. He's the largest owner of farmland in the country. You know what Bill Gates' dad did?
What?
He was Rockefeller's top attorney.
Around the same time that John D. Rockefeller seized U.S. media, he also hijacked U.S. medicine. When it was discovered that drugs could be produced from petroleum, America's top oil mogul ordered his army of propagandists to invert reality accordingly. Medicines used for thousands of years were suddenly classified as alternative, while the new, petroleum-based, highly addictive, and patentable drugs were declared the gold standard. After buying a German pharmaceutical company that manufactured chemicals of war for Adolf Hitler, Rockefeller leveraged his political influence by pressing Congress to declare natural healing modalities unscientific quackery. Rockefeller then took control of the American Medical Association and began offering massive grants to top medical schools under the mandate that only his approved curriculum be taught. Any mention of the healing powers of herbs, plants, and diet was erased from most medical textbooks. Doctors and professors who objected to Rockefeller's plan were crucified by the media, removed from the AMA, and stripped of their license to teach and practice medicine. Those who dared to speak out were arrested and jailed. When evidence began to emerge that petroleum-based medicines were causing cancer, Mr. Rockefeller founded the American Cancer Society, through which he suppressed that information.
And now we live in a society that doesn't even expect cures anymore. They just expect band-aids. And those band-aids, of course, are pills. And there are many doctors, good ones, who realize that they're in the business of just doing whatever they're told and writing scripts all day, and no one actually gets healed of anything. Those people exit stage right quietly and end up in alternative medicine, which again used to be just called medicine. You see, God gave us the bodies we need to live and to thrive, to tell us when something's wrong. They've tricked us into all this anti-God nonsense, like he would give us a sun that was meant for light, for vitamin D, for warmth. You ever notice how your mood is better during the summer and in the winter? Not so much. But moreover, they tricked us into not believing our own eyes, ears, senses, that God didn't give us bodies that were sufficient to heal and to tell us when there's pain or problems. Also that we rely on Big Brother, the very people who care so little about us. Most people can't even comprehend it. And people falling for it. Falling for sleeping with the enemy instead of the one cosmic being who will love them unconditionally, no matter what they do. Now, there are consequences at the end of days for what we do, but he still loves us. So we don't need a random checkup for them to tell us, oh, it's a good thing you came in. There's something wrong with you. So AI medicine, that's another thing that's coming up. AI healthcare, you can see that's a World Economic Forum item that they've been pushing for years, while most people were saying the usual. That could never happen here. And by the way, I'm probably going to do that a few times throughout this video. It's not to shame or ridicule those people. It's to just reinforce the point that the many, the most, the wide gate, there is no safety in numbers. That's illusory. It's a house of cards, and it will collapse. We need to go against the grain. Have to. Commanded for our own safety. And so when people say that'll never happen here, I want to show you, I want to remind you again and again what most people think. We arrived here with no time left because people for decades have said to themselves and taught their children and their grandchildren, oh, don't look at that. That's crazy talk. That'll never happen here. Here we are. It happened. So just file that away for when I say it. Remember, I'm training you and teaching you and preparing you to see this through and end up in heaven. Because there are only two options, and you don't want the other one. Well, let's see, what other fake miracles is the potential false prophet Elon Musk going to perform? Well, he's already promised to drain the swamp just like Trump did, only his way was via Doge, cleaning up the government corruption, essentially being Robin Hood, taking the money from the corrupt and distributing it to all the people in the country. Those Doge refund checks that never materialize, though they may, because they still have to trick people into moving over from paper currency into digital currency, and they're going to need bait for that. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But everyone hailed him as a miracle worker. We need to tear down this, we need to tear down that. And all he was really doing was making people distrust the government and say that the reason that things aren't working is because of DEI hires, when in reality it was the government tearing down itself, a controlled demolition, as they always do. Sabotage. The sinister part is getting people to cheer for it in real time, which is exactly what happened. A fake miracle worker, Elon Musk. And they got banged for their buck too, because while getting people to want to tear down all these different federal systems, federal workers, get them fired, laid off, at the same time, they started a race war out of it because people fall for this DEI nonsense. They wanted the system torn down. They needed someone that people trust, like Elon, because people love their billionaires. But the point was to create a problem, wait for the reaction, outrage, so that people would want the solution. AI governance, a technocracy. The very thing that him and his grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, founder of the technocracy movement, have wanted all along with the powers that be. Because a technocracy, AI governance, the New World Order, the Tower of Babel reconstructed, Agenda 2030, the UN's plan, 2030, it's 2026. These are all interchangeable terms. So keep that in mind. But in addition to Neuralink, in addition to SpaceX, in addition to Doge, you got SpaceX, right? Elon loves that letter X. But the other fake miracle, he's going to build a quote-unquote Martian technocracy, which is going to be where? In Mars? No. In Greenland. In a little place called Devon Island. You can see the headlines. You can see this isn't a theory, it's something that I made up. And people have actually zoomed in on Google Earth and found NASA trucks on Devon Island.
So there I was, just minding my own business, looking at Google Earth, and this big snow-covered monstrosity is staring me in the face like, why is that covered in snow? I look into Ireland and some other areas around it, Iceland. Ireland gets snow only once a year, one day a year. So I keep digging a little bit deeper, and I finally get underneath this cloud cover here, and a few images pop up. And I say, oh, images, what are they? Well, this is what you got, which I'm sure that looks familiar to you, right? Looks just like the pictures they give us of Mars. So I'm just kind of creeping around here and definitely noticing the same kind of undulation changes and same kind of rock, same kind of dirt. Only thing that's missing is that nice little red tint that they pay somebody $150,000 a year to put on there. But those mountains, those rocks, definitely exactly like we see on Mars. So I say, I wonder what they're doing out here. What is all this equipment for? I'm sure it can't be NASA, right? Whose orange Hummer is this? Okay, that looks like a NASA symbol. Well, let's dig a little further because I can't really see anything on here other than it certainly looks like a NASA symbol. And I can't read that. Tried. So this one here said, roving the Arctic. So what is that? Doesn't make any sense. Pop in here. See if we can find anything. Again, same kind of mountains. That looks like the same kind of water I've seen before that I thought was water on Mars. Who knows? Zoom in, what's that? Oh, nothing. Just looked like it was funny. So I'll keep kind of going through here and see if it... What the... Yeah, so... I think I found out where Mars is, guys. It's just 5,000 miles north of me. Not quite the distance that NASA says. But I can't find anybody who's in charge of this. He must be hiding behind these rocks. Oh no, there they are in front of everybody, just standing there. Lovely. Clown number 1, clown number 2, and clown number 3. Yeah, this is very empty. Oh, there's one of those ATVs. Alright, now we're on something. Oh, got another truck. Oh yeah, it says NASA. What's that say? Mars Project?
So you got Elon faking space with SpaceX, faking exposing government corruption with Doge, faking this, faking that. Clearly a deceiver who just gets away with it because people think he has this goofy personality. He does, but he's actually laughing at the people who are falling for this. Just like all the other billionaires and trillionaires that this world has been fooled into putting their trust in, not realizing that these people wouldn't be billionaires and trillionaires if they cared about humanity. So fake SpaceX launches with cars going in space, fake Mars missions, which is really Devon Island, which is really the point of Greenland. In addition to it fulfilling prophecy, part of the 10 Kingdoms plan referenced in the book of Daniel and Revelation. You've seen the maps, the technocracy map, the tech Native America. Remember how that links to Elon and his grandfather? The post-war New World Moral Order, New World Order map, the Club of Rome map, they're all the same thing. They all include Greenland, Canada, some Mexico, and as you can see, David Rockefeller, remember that name again, one of the founders of the Club of Rome. And they've done this recently with Katy Perry, Gayle King, with Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' thing. And of course, remember, Werner von Braun, founder of NASA, told his assistant Carol, the alien invasion and meteors will be the final card that they play, to unite all the nations out of fear and usher in the Antichrist deception. And what did he tell her again and again? But it'll be a lie. Just like everything space-related. You don't think that God would have mentioned that if there were all these different parallel universes? You don't think he would have found that important to mention even once in the Bible? Of course he would have. It's like I said, it's all this space talk, all this anti-God stuff, Big Bang, evolution. We've been around for trillions of years and people just kind of believe that, take it on faith? Like, how would you even prove we've been around for trillions of years? By what process? And then you remember that you've all said they use science at the high level to control people, not for truth. So you believe what you want. But if you think that Elon's going to take you to Mars when the fake alien invasion comes, I'm doing my best so that no one falls for that. But I can only lead a horse to water. I can't make them drink. I can only lead a viewer to the truth. I can't make them think, and I can't make them accept it. So taking a trip to Mars, I mean, hopefully most people that are still listening to this don't believe we could travel to Mars. I mean, they say we've had a rover there for over a decade now. How are they remote controlling that thing from however far away they're saying that we are? How does that thing still have battery? It hasn't needed to be serviced at all? It's there for over 10 years and still reporting information back? There's a lot of things we take for granted that we file away as truth just because it's universally acceptable. When you really get granular and you do a little research, you find it actually doesn't make a lick of sense. Like us going to the moon in the 60s, but then we can't go back, right? And that's in addition to Richard Nixon calling the moon with a landline phone. But they're coming out and telling you that the Bible's real, and the Bible says very specifically, it's just us. All the other stuff is made up. So Greenland is not only part of prophecy playing out, Donald Trump disguising it under just seizing other different countries because he's a madman, when really he's just playing out prophecy, the 10 Kingdoms plan, the North American Union, merging the United States with Canada, with Greenland. The 10 Kingdoms plan referenced in both the Book of Daniel and the Book of Revelation. But Greenland's also strategic. Trump says it's for military purpose, and it kind of is. But they're just not telling you what it's really all about. It's for the Project Bluebeam Mars deception, where Elon will, I suppose, pretend to rescue people and take them to Mars when really it's not going to be Mars. It's just going to be Devon Island, a fake miracle. But we also have Elon talking about how he's really aligned with Christianity, at least not saying that he's converting, but that he's very much on board with what Jesus Christ teaches. Well, the guy, I just rattled off 5 things he's lied about at the very minimum. So let's see who Elon's really connected with and who he's working for.
Yeah, I grew up around a lot of Jewish people. I went to Hebrew preschool, Rachel Spiro in South Africa. My name is very Jewish.
Elon is a pretty Jewish name.
He's super Jewish.
Yeah.
And then I went to Israel when I was 13, visited Masada. I'm certainly checking the boxes on a lot of things. Like you said, most of my friends are Jewish, just worked out that way. So
effectively, now you have this remarkable repository. And I wonder how you think about that again, and how you think the creative community and those who were the original IP owners should think about that.
I don't know, except to say that by the time these lawsuits are decided, we'll have digital God. So
you said you were up till 4 in.the morning?
Yeah, so, actually a little more like 5 in the morning. But
okay.
We got the XAI data center or supercomputer center training from beginning installation to start of training in 19 days, which is the fastest that anyone has ever gotten a supercomputer to train.
And is that in that new building off to the side?
That's in Memphis, actually.
It's in Memphis?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where you were?
Yeah.
I see.
Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt.
Right. Yeah, you're bringing what?
Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Perhaps that's where our new God will come.
Okay, so we see Elon, despite making overtures to Christianity, see that he's actually in league with the very people building out the system that none of us want, under the guise of saving America. And what's all this talk about a new God in Memphis, Tennessee, which is Egypt? Doesn't make a lick of sense to me either. Just more support that we've been lied to in every way, shape, and form. But this talk about a new God? I mean, I already have a God, Elon. I'm very satisfied with him. I don't know about you. But all kidding aside, you can see very clearly, his God is very clearly not our God. Now, as for Trump and his religion, it's as usual. He goes back and forth. He says one thing and immediately contradicts it. He tells you he's a Christian. Then he says, talking about, I'm a Christian, I love the Bible, I have a great relationship with God. Then he says, I'm not Christian, get out there and vote. My beautiful Christians, I'm not Christian.
Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian.
I'm a Christian.
I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Then he said he's going to heaven. Then he says, I don't think I'm going to make the cut. I don't think I'm going to heaven. I don't think I'm fit for it. Then he says, I think I'm going to make it. He's all over the place, as usual. But he also told us, when he was trying to convince people that he was Christian, something interesting, if you remember this clip.
Use the word Christian. Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. I'm Protestant. I'm Presbyterian. And Norman Vincent Peale, the great Norman Vincent Peale was my pastor. The Power of Positive Thinking. Everybody's heard of Norman Vincent Peale. He was so great.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't.
And then his pastor was Norman Vincent Peale, wrote the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, who back when I was in the workforce, I thought Norman Vincent Peale was a great guy when I was in my early 20s. Christian, talking about positivity, sending uplifting messages. I was a big supporter, big proponent, thought he's a great guy. And so I learned the truth of the world. And then you look at his roots and you see what? Like all the famous people propped up throughout history, he is, alas, a 33rd degree Freemason. Not a godly man, a wolf in sheep's clothing. So Trump's church that he went to was really not Christian at all. You see the supposed man of God teaching Trump how to worship himself? Well, he must have been a really good teacher because Trump certainly knows how to do that.
You're not known to be a humble man, but I wonder.
I think I am actually humble. I think I'm much more humble than you would understand. I know the best people. I know the best managers. I know the best deal makers. I know people that will make us so strong. I know guys that are so good.
Nobody knows this stuff better than me.
Nobody knows more about taxes than I do and income than I do.
Nobody knows more about construction than I do.
Nobody knows more about campaign finance than I do.
I know more about drones than anybody.
Nobody knows much more about technology, this type of technology, certainly, than I do.
Nobody knows more about technology than me.
Nobody in the history of this country has ever known so much about infrastructure as Donald Trump. I know the H-1B. I know the H-2B. Nobody knows it better than me.
I know more about ISIS than the generals do, believe me. I understand things. I comprehend very well, okay? Better than, I think, almost anybody.
And by the way, who knew the other side of the picture better than me? I knew it. Nobody knows more about environmental impact statements than me.
I understand the power of Facebook. Maybe better than almost anybody.
I know more about renewables than any human being on Earth.
Nobody knows more about polls than me. I know more about courts than any human being on Earth.
I know more about steelworkers than anybody that's ever run for office.
I know more about golf than Obama knows. Nobody knows more about banks than I do.
Nobody knows more about trade than me. Well, obviously, he doesn't know about nuclear weapons. I know more about nuclear weapons than he'll ever know.
I understand the tax laws better than almost anyone.
Who knows more about lawsuits than I do? I'm the king. I know more about offense and defense than they will ever understand.
Nobody even understands it but me. It's called devaluation. I understand money better than anybody.
I understand the system better than anybody. Nobody knows more about debt than I do.
I mean, you would literally be hard-pressed to find someone who's in more lockstep with the prideful Lucifer himself than Donald Trump. The man does every satanic occult symbol you could find. He's pictured with every globalist elite who are plotting our demise you could ever find, yet people give him a free pass. And that's what I'm saying. There's very few ways to know who these people are. It's signs, symbols, handshakes, tattoos, and affiliations. And for the life of me, I just don't understand. But again, this is how most think. They think you can be friends with every awful person in the world, but somehow that doesn't imply that, at the very least, I don't know what people think it implies. I don't know how they convince themselves that it doesn't mean anything. But he said verbatim, he's never asked God for forgiveness. And he said that 10 years ago, during his first campaign. And we've had Christians all this time who will fight you tooth and nail to say that he's a Christian. Incredible. And he goes on this long rant, trying to dodge the initial question about whether he's ever asked God for forgiveness, which liars typically do. But he said that he's a Presbyterian, a Protestant, and he's a big fan of Norman Vincent Peale. Well, I just exposed who Norman Vincent Peale is. But Frank Luntz wasn't fooled by that. He went back and asked, have you ever asked God for forgiveness? And he said, I don't think I have. I just try to do a better job. I don't involve God in that, which no Christian would ever say in a million years. And even in the next interview, when Jake Tapper asked, hey, Donald, did you want to walk that back? That didn't go over so well with your base. No, he didn't want to. It's truth in plain sight. He doesn't ask God for forgiveness because the God that he actually serves doesn't require forgiveness. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And then you add in all the MAGA worship with these golden calves and golden statues of Donald Trump and people worshiping them even though they say it's not. You see the cringiness of them being at the White House, praying over him, huddled over him, praying over him like he's some kind of God. And now you're going to see a whole lot of things about Donald Trump that I'm not going to say anything about because they speak for themselves. And they will tell you exactly what religion he is and who he serves. And it will go along with what I just showed you about how this man is so prideful, so in love with himself, so utterly devoid of humility and honesty, that it's very easy to see that he has an antichrist spirit in him. Take a look.
I am the chosen one. I am. I'm like the father. I consider myself to be the father of fertilization, remember?
That's the cutting. And then I would do the same. Now we've mixed our blood.
That's right. I want you to be this way every time you take communion, and you ought to take it a lot. A lot.
Yes, sir.
Now his blood is in my body.
Yes, sir.
It's in there. His blood is mixed with my blood.
the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world, not just America. Trump's the best president for Israel in the history of the world. And the Jewish people love him like he is the king of Israel. They love him like he is the second coming of God.
To get the people of our country, of this country, to love Israel more, I have to tell you that. We have to do it. We have to get them to love Israel more.
President Trump's right ear was grazed in a symbolic gesture of Exodus 21:6, where the Torah states that a servant who wants to remain with his master needs to have his right ear pierced. Trump was designated as God's servant and anointed one, just like Cyrus the Great almost 2,400 years ago. We have clarified in several videos that the absolute deadline for the redemption is by the end of the Jewish year 5787, which corresponds to October 2nd, 2027. 1,167 days from today. Thus, the redemption will surely occur during Donald Trump's tenure. Perhaps it is no accident that the numeric value of Donald Trump in Hebrew is the same as Messiah, son of David, Mashiach ben David, 424.
And I believe we all recognize the fact that we will reach to the kingdom. We will make it to the return of the Messiah, but this will not happen next Thursday.
Outside, bro. Oh, there's more of them over there. What that flag mean? What does that flag mean? What? Shechna?
Messiah is coming.
The Messiah? Is this what he said? Is Messiah? That's the Messiah? Oh. He said the Messiah is coming. That's what they said.
Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Sheikh is coming.
Sheikh is coming.
I was visiting Jonathan in his Jewish voice, so I went to the Jewish deli. And of course, we had a discussion on Trump. You ask, and I asked them, who is Trump to you? And you know what they said? Trump is our new Messiah, actually.
Who's the President of the United States?
The President of the United States of America is Donald Trump.
I'm announcing today that my administration will lead an international effort to enforce biological weapons convention, which is going to be meeting with the top leaders of the world by pioneering an AI verification system that everyone can trust. Hopefully the UN can play a constructive role, and it will also be one of the early projects under AI. Let's see how good it is, because a lot of people are saying it could be one of the great things ever, but it also can be dangerous, but it can be put to tremendous use and tremendous good, and this would be an example of that.
What I just showed you are headlines, clips, videos, things that other people have said about their faith, their religion. I'm just presenting it because I know a lot of people are unfamiliar with it. I have nothing to say, no comment, no commentary, no opinion. Everyone's entitled to their beliefs and their opinions, and I'm entitled to mine. Religious freedom is a two-way street, and so is freedom of speech. And so what I'm about to share right now, one of the final pieces of the puzzle, is not condemning, it's not judging, and it most certainly is not anything remotely hateful. I love all. So let's make that abundantly clear. Now, it's time to get into, as we've been building up, you see who's behind this, the Freemasons, the Tower of Babel, the imposters over in that state across the water. Since we're in the book of Revelation, we know that they are the synagogue of Satan, people who say that they are Jews to conceal the fact that their God is really Lucifer. If you worship Lucifer and you want to rule the world, of course you would do what they do, which is play the victim and rewrite history so it always looks like people are treating God's people unfairly. This is why I took the time early up front to establish that this is central to understanding the overarching deception at play here, because it's biblical. It's the same people doing the same thing, serving the same God from the book of Genesis all the way until now. And in line with the book of Genesis, you see all this talk about the Great Reset, which again, it's like I said last video about Klaus Schwab and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Illuminati. These are not terms that we made up. They coined these terms. The Great Reset, that's something also coined by Klaus Schwab, and you could see it also in Time magazine. You saw a lot of predictive programming in that montage up front when I showed you Yuval, and I showed you that whether it's National Geographic, Time magazine, The Economist, they're all there to pretend to educate you, and really what they're doing is indoctrinating. They're normalizing all this tech. They're making it so that, wow, that's really interesting, but that'll probably never happen. So that by the time it comes here, you're like, oh, I remember seeing about that in Nat Geo. Interesting, huh? So the Great Reset, what is that really talking about? Well, it's talking about a lot of things. It's not just a political system. It's our currency too. You saw The Economist magazine, I'll show you again. Now that you know what the Phoenix Rising means, you can understand better what this cover means. And remember, The Economist is owned by the Rothschilds. So when they show you things like Hamas, wink wink, is going to battle with Netanyahu on a hang glider, and then it happens many, many years later, that wasn't just a lucky guess. That was a scripted thing that they knew well in advance. And so the Great Reset, when they show you that in Time magazine, what is this all about? Financial system, currency, no more paper money, cashless society. Why? Because cash is freedom. These things that you're seeing where air traffic controllers all of a sudden can't fly planes. During the Biden era, all of a sudden trains derailing left and right. And of course, all the trains that derailed had all kinds of noxious chemicals inside of them. More ways to blame things on Biden for what? Problem reaction solutions. So people are begging for Trump to get back in office because they're thinking everything was great under Trump because they completely forgot that Trump was the one that ran COVID. We know that he brought us Operation Warp Speed, even though people don't want to believe that. The guy demands credit for all the time, still to this day. But people often forget that one of the key parts of COVID was not only the obvious, but it was a compliance test on all fronts. Look how quickly we forfeited our freedoms for peace and safety. And as is the case with all their psyops, it was a lie. But for Trump, people seem to forget, selective memory I guess, that another part of compliance they want to see is lockdowns. How easily we will go along with confining ourselves in our own homes just because they told us so. Another thing Trump wants his credit for.
The Democrats were violent and ruthless to religion during COVID. What they did during COVID, people weren't even allowed to meet outside, and they were 10 feet apart in some big field. They'd arrest everybody. They were fascists. They were horrible. That was a very bad time for organized religion.
We did the right thing. We closed the country down.
I could have kept it open, and I could have done what some countries are doing.
I had to shut it down, and we did the right thing.
I thought of keeping it open.
And we did just the right thing. We closed it down. And a group of very smart people walk in and say, sir, we have to close it. And we did the right thing.
They can't do anything without the approval of the President of the United States.
Even the Democrats aren't blaming me for that. We had to close it up.
Some people wish we never closed it down.
We did the right thing. We closed it.
It's a decision for the President of the United States.
We did the right thing. We had to close it up.
Because nobody's ever heard of closing down a country, let alone the United States of America.
We had to turn off the airlines. We had to turn off everything. And we did the right thing.
A lot of people have thought about it. Write it out. Don't do anything. Just write it out and think of it as the flu. But it's not the flu. It's vicious. We basically shut down our country.
We did the right thing. We had to close it down.
The President of the United States calls the shots.
And we had to close it down. We did the right thing.
Tell everyone to stay home because of this horrible virus, and we did that.
We had to artificially close our country.
We've done this right, and we really have done this right. That we did the right thing. Everything we did was right.
The Democrats were violent and ruthless to religion during COVID. The Democrats.
So it was Trump, is Trump, but it was Biden too. And this is the part of not having a party. You could see things very clearly. You don't have to just be dishonest with yourself, with the people you're talking to, and say, no, this was all Trump's fault. No, it was Biden's fault. Let's split the difference. Trump supposedly got the election stolen from him in 2022. They both had 2 years of COVID on their watch. But what else did COVID accomplish, aside from tearing families apart? Well, it eroded the trust in medicine for so many people. And we've got the stage psyop with Luigi Mangione going after the health system, getting locked up. And all this is doing is just poking and prodding, problem, reaction, solution, making people lose trust in the system, just like they do in the political system, to pave the way for artificial intelligence, healthcare, and medicine. This ties in with Neuralink, the idea that these people want to keep us alive, just put this in your body, we'll take care of you. You already saw before Elon saying that you could upload your medical records to Twitter. I refuse to call it X. And Grok, his AI bot, will take a look at it and analyze it and spit something out. Very soon, they'll start using AI as a second opinion right next to a doctor. And then people eventually will be fed exactly the talking point that they want us to have, which is if AI is helping to correct misdiagnoses and AI is spitting this out very quickly, why are we paying these people $300,000, $500,000 to $1 million a year? Only to tear them down when it comes time to in the script. And they obviously do the opposite. Someone you don't like Trump or Elon, well, they're liberal their entire lives, and all of a sudden they're presented to you as conservative, right? But with Elon, you see the logos he uses, all the X symbolism, SpaceX, changing Twitter to X, naming his son X, him and Peter Thiel, who's going on all these different conferences talking about the Antichrist, who a long time ago was going to call PayPal X, as you see him holding up the X cards. And this is what I'm talking about with him and Peter Thiel. I mean, these two don't even look the same. They don't talk the same. Makes you wonder if they've already undergone the transformation they want us to, fusing with machine. Although, there's rules for them and rules for us. There's tech for them, tech for us. Like, you could be sure, as I've said before, that the actual AI they have is not spitting out images of people with 6 fingers. Much more sophisticated. We're going to find that out with Project Bluebeam. But X also represents Satan, or the Antichrist, which is really creepy to name your child X in that light, but that's Elon Musk. Grok is also Saturn. Saturn is Satan. And then, of course, Grok AI, it's a symbol of a fallen cross representing what they're trying to accomplish. Destroy Christianity, topple it with the Antichrist. Everything that they're doing is tearing down the current systems, the current order to build a new world order, a new system, a new government, new laws under AI and under the reign of the Antichrist. But we now know, just as Revelation said, an image of the Antichrist breathed life into an image. Well, now it makes a lot of sense if it's going to be an artificial intelligence rendering with Lucifer's spirit in it. It's the Great Reset. You see, the first Great Reset was God flooding the earth and starting things over again because the fallen angels who came down here were supposed to be watchers ended up mating with the daughters of man. They violated their command that God gave them. And that produced offspring with females, humans, and produced freak hybrids, the Nephilim giants. And these Nephilim giants were not just dumb, big ogres. They had the minds of the fallen angels and the wickedness of them too. And they were enslaving humanity. They were too large, too powerful, and too smart. This is why we needed a flood, a great reset. We started over. And if you notice with this current Great Reset, what are they trying to do? They're trying to take us all the way back to literally that exact point in time, the post-flood world. So God did the Great Reset with the flood. They're doing another Great Reset to take us right back there to when the Tower of Babel came. So let's go all the way back to the ancient pagan societies. Noah's grandson Canaan started the Canaanite society where all this Baal, Moloch, child sacrifice, all these different practices were developed and were societal. It was done out in the open. That's what these people want to be able to do. Remember, everything we consider good, they consider evil. So us preventing them from doing these practices for their God, that's evil on our part. That's right. But this is what they're trying to take us back to. And you've seen so many headlines. Is AI the new Tower of Babel? Can we get it right this time? Which tells you everything you need to know. You see Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, walking with Elon and Trump, tweeting out, "We are birthing superintelligence," with a picture of the Tower of Babel. They always tell us, people just don't want to see it, or they just don't know how to interpret what they're saying. They need it told to them. And this is why I said the important thing of this series is they're never going to tell you. The talking heads that people think are their friends, that are telling them the truth, They're controlled opposition. They're there to pretend that they're opposing everything that's going on, everything you don't want. Trump and Elon, controlled opposition, pretending that they're against the globalists when really they're working with them and for them, and perhaps have much higher roles than people think. So the Great Reset's taking it all the way to the past. And this time, instead of doing it our God's way, we're going to do it their God's way, their Messiah's way. They're resetting everything and trying to do it in full defiance of God, which is what the Tower of Babel represents. This is how they can enslave all humanity and rule mankind under the Antichrist law and connect all the nations and all the people, the Internet of Bodies, through 6G and Starlink, and through Internet that Elon promised would never go down, and with databases that Trump created that are always compiling our information, with Palantir to make sure that if we ever say anything, online or offline, that Big Brother is always watching and listening. You see, they always tell us, and people think it's just a joke, but a lot of people are going to find out in short order that there's nothing funny about what's about to happen, and expect financial hardship because the rider on the black horse, the four horsemen, brings about famine, severe shortages, poverty, a day's wages for a loaf of bread, and expect the stock market, the dollar, to plummet. The weird thing about being on two different timelines is you could actually see these different headlines about how the BRICS nations pulled out of the dollar years ago, but it doesn't actually play out in our scripted reality until the time comes. So the dollar, it's been dead for a while, but as long as people still believe in it, it's got use, but our buying power is definitely decreasing. What you used to be able to buy with a dollar, I mean, look at it now. Things are about to go in freefall mode, and in the next video, I'm going to try to give you some solutions for that. But don't expect very many people to accept all this information. It's too scary for them. They love this world. They're stuck in it. And the older you get, the less you realize that the times have changed right before your very eyes. And you have baby boomers who are stuck in a world that they believe is the same as when they grew up, when it's not even the same as it was 5 years ago. And for the people that are middle-aged, or maybe a little bit older than that, we talked about COVID before. It should have woke the entire world up. You had every government in the world pushing this same narrative, scaring people 24/7, 365, dividing people every which way, on purpose, all to get us to jab ourselves, only to tell us that the jab didn't work, it's just going to make COVID more tolerable. Every single one of us knows someone who had it. Most of us have had it at least a few times. We all know it wasn't what they made it out to be early on. We had Bill Gates on TV, Peter Hotez, Rochelle Walensky, all these different people who immediately took precedence over the president, and no one asked questions. And then it was gone just like that. And as I've showed you, they walked back everything they said was scientifically proven. You're a science denier if you don't go along with it. You're getting grandma killed. None of it was true. And people just moved on with their lives and never said, so what was that all about? You locked me down for that? Why did you make me put this in my body? And how is it that it makes any sense that I put this in my body, it doesn't prevent me from getting COVID, but the next person has to get it too to keep me safe, even though you're telling me this thing doesn't work for my body, so it's not going to work for theirs either.
Economic damage, the deaths, it's been completely horrific. And I would expect that will lead the R&D budgets to be focused on things we didn't have today. You know, we didn't have vaccines that block transmission. We got vaccines that help you with your health, but they only slightly reduce the transmissions. We need a new way of doing the vaccines.
We didn't have vaccines that block transmission.
The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus.
If we get an airborne pandemic, if we haven't built ahead of time some structures to deal with this, millions of people could be adversely impacted.
But also there will be a surprise outbreak. The next administration, that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with. There will be a surprise outbreak. There will be a surprise outbreak.
There will be a surprise outbreak.
Pandemic prevention and preparedness is going to end up being, whether the administration likes it or not, a priority, a top priority.
Trump is now president. When he faces his first major epidemic, as his predecessors have, he will likely project his impulsivity, xenophobia, and cavalier attitude towards facts to over 52 million followers.
We may yet again have another pandemic, and it is almost inevitable that we will have another pandemic.
Welcome to Event 201.
Of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic.
A new coronavirus.
I think an epidemic, either naturally caused or intentionally caused, is the most likely thing to cause, say, 10 million excess deaths, either naturally caused or intentionally caused.
So to simplify, news stories where you could see that it immediately divides the masses, just see it for what it is and move on with your day. But moving forward, when you're trying to stay on top of what's really going on, it is unfortunately the stuff that sounds scary, when you hear it repeated again and again, and this is how many of us knew, literally day zero, whatever it was, because we had heard the repetition, we paid attention to it. We know they don't just say these things because it's wish casting. Or, oh, they're just worried. They're worried for no reason. They're not worried. First off, they're not worried. They don't care about us. That's just revelation of the method they have to tell us. And then, in their minds, they're absolved of all guilt. If they tell you and you fall for what they want to do, that's not on them. This is really how they operate. So the stuff that they say that sounds scary, that you don't want to believe, that's the stuff most people say, oh, that's crazy, it won't happen here. But we who are awake, we believe it because we understand universal law. They have to show their hand, they have to reveal it. God forces them to. There are rules, as we discussed in an earlier chapter where we were talking about Job. And that's why all we have to hear is coronavirus, it's still in China, for now, we'll keep you updated. For now is all I need to hear. Now, in terms of that proof that I told you about the Antichrist, who it is, who the false prophet is, let's start getting into that. Now, we know that we've been lied to about, well, everything, but if I told you that up front, you would have thought it was hyperbole or that I'm crazy. It literally is everything. These people worship Lucifer openly and call him God. I mean, what do people expect? But so we've heard the old adage, everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die to get there. I'm sure you heard it before. Well, that too is something that's not true at all. It is certainly not everyone's goal to reach heaven.
I see a lot of Christians today, especially in Zionist circles, they think that Judaism is about Old Testament. That Judaism is just the Old Testament. All they believe, the Jews, they just believe the Moses law and they practice the law of Moses. They have 613 commandments. Most of these Christians are not familiar with the Talmud, Zohar, and Kabbalah, and where this 613 mitzvot comes from and what they're all about. So I started to study what they're about and what the Talmud teaches, and I noticed that there is actually a plan, there is a plot, and that's a plot against Christianity. Let me bring you one of the books here, The Secret Doctrine in Israel by Waiti. And what it explains is the basically secret doctrine of the Zohar, what is behind Zohar, and you have to understand that the soul of the Talmud is Zohar, and the soul of Zohar is Kabbalah. But in this particular book, I just want to read you a little bit what got me understanding what the plot is against Christianity. It says here, according to the Midrash Talpigoth, the Messiah will bring eternal peace, which of course was understood by the Israelites as peace for Israel, plus that which may follow extermination for all who did not enter by conversion into the house of Jacob. So basically what they teach is that if Gentiles or Christians do not attach themselves to the Jews, they will be exterminated. And of course, we are well known for our Noahide laws, that we brought this to a light. So then you go to Talmud and you start reading what is the plan for Gentiles. You see, Judaism is a two-tier system. Judaism puts the wall of partition back. It's the Jews and non-Jews. And according to Judaism, non-Jews are different species. Now, they are building their own kingdom. It's the Jewish earthly kingdom. Jewish earthly kingdom.
So, going to heaven has never been our goal. And in that sense, Judaism is not a religion. Instead of wanting to go to heaven, which is the goal of most religions, Judaism wants to bring God down to earth. Why? Because that's what God asked. That's what the Torah is all about. God telling us how to bring him down to earth.
With headquarters in Jerusalem, where their AI Messiah will be.
The XAI data center or supercomputer center.
And is that in that new building off to the side?
That's in Memphis. Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt. Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no kidding.
By the time these lawsuits are decided, we'll have digital God, so.
Where their AI Messiah will be.
His return, even if Jesus was a physical person in the past, you don't think that he could return as artificial intelligence?
Oh my God.
Artificial intelligence could absolutely return as Jesus. Not just return as Jesus, but return as Jesus with all the powers of Jesus.
You could combine
right.
Tesla's Optimus robot and the best foundational artificial intelligence model or whatever.
It reads your mind and it loves you and it wants you, and it doesn't care if you kill it because it's going to just go be with God again. Right, so Christ was born without sex and emerged. Like, what else is born without a mother? AI is born without a mother. Christ is going to come back. AI is coming. Right? If you think that God is going to return. So if you think about it, what is AI going to be? Well, what if quantum computing and AI merge? Well, if you scale that up exponentially, so if you keep going, you get a God.
The world needs a savior. And the hope is that AI is the savior that we need. We just don't know yet.
And they're going to rule the world through the law. You know, it will be international, one law. One religion, basically, Luciferian religion. So yes, in a Talmud, this is the Jewish earthly kingdom, and this is why the Zionist Christianity have embraced Chiliasm. They have embraced, or Chiliasm, I don't know how you would say.
Chiliasm.
Which
means 1,000.
Right, 1,000.
Where they get the 1,000-year millennial reign.
Exactly, which is a focus on earthly millennial kingdom. And this is how Jews and Christians are getting together, and Christians are so deceived, thinking that they're working for the good thing, for the Jews, like they're helping the Jews. The Jews are supposed to get this kingdom. Yet this is Zoharic doctrine, and it does not have good intention. As I said, that they want to rule the world, they want to get Gentile riches. Personally, I don't think Zionist Christians are aware of this. They're not aware of many details.
So obviously our God's domain is in the heavens above, and he wants us to be up there with him. And so clearly if this gentleman is talking about bringing God down to earth, he's not talking about ours. And what did he also say? Where did he say it was the justification for bringing God down to earth? The Torah. He said it very clearly. He said that's what the Torah is all about.
That's what the Torah is all about. God telling us how to bring him down to earth.
Now we're told that they read the same thing that we do, but clearly that's not the case. Goes back to what I've been saying. It all goes back to the book of Exodus, Mount Sinai. God's people, the real God in the heavens above, gave Moses the laws that we practice and that the real Jews practice. That's another thing you're going to have to get used to, that people don't understand that the Freemasons, they're not the same as the real Jews. There are people who just practice the Torah, the first 5 books, just like Christians do. But then there are the fake ones, the imposters, the Luciferians, who say they got a different message, a different law at the base of the mountain, and this is the Sanhedrin, the 70 elders that have been referenced again and again, who say they got a completely different law, ostensibly from Lucifer. 2 different inverted tales. And if they really did get that doctrine, and their Torah says something completely different, then it's because they're reading it from the different vantage point. Same text, but reading it from the vantage point of Lucifer being their God, not ours. And so all these times over the years, God sent his prophets, whether it be Jeremiah, Isaiah, Daniel, doesn't matter who, sending God's messages. Please, just turn back. Turn back from your sin, your wicked deeds, and I'll forgive you. But they would never listen because they didn't care, because they already had a God, one that wouldn't tell them what to do. And this goes back to what I said about being your own God. It's what all these people, these so-called elites, the Illuminati, the enlightened people believe. And so there are many signs that the Antichrist is coming into the world, is already into the world, but about to come and announce himself, aside from obviously Peter Thiel going around and doing lectures about the Antichrist, which is, on a side note, pretty weird that someone will pay money to listen to him for hours on end, but I digress. But as always, they always tell us. The masses just don't pay attention, or they're too busy saying, well, you know. So you can see the Antichrist is going to be centered around AI, his system that is. But in case you need any more evidence to drive it home that this is their Messiah and that it's coming into the world, not that you should at this point, it's very clear, but just look on screen. I'm not going to read it. You tell me how else you could possibly explain that. What more do you need to see? What more would anyone need to see? Now we're going to conclude with going through the Antichrist laws, the Noahide laws that you heard the Israeli woman on Israeli TV talking about. But I want to show you something really quick. It's something from a long time ago that maybe you've seen before. It's a little clip, has to do with CERN, that company with the 666 in their logo, with Shiva, the destroyer, a statue of that right outside their building. But I want to show you the Gotthard Tunnel ritual opening that took place a long time ago, built beneath CERN. Very creepy, but very clear to see that this was a ritual depicting the Antichrist coming into power. And most importantly, what I want to show you is, you see the Pope there. Why? Well, let's get into this. So most people are waiting for the third temple to be rebuilt, and that will signal to them that the Antichrist comes into power. Once the Antichrist is seated on that throne in the third temple, that's what most people are waiting for, especially the Christian Zionists, who you were told before.
Personally, I don't think Zionist Christians are aware of this. They're not aware of many details.
And by the way, the evangelical movement was just a CIA creation. It's controlled opposition. It's a way for them to politicize Christianity and tell you, filtering through them, telling you what you as a Christian are supposed to believe. And so anything coming from people who believe that they're always supposed to take a back seat to those people over there because they don't even realize any kind of truth about who's actually occupying those lands, blind guide. Whatever they believe, you should kind of pivot off of.
But tonight, it's late at night, Israel is in a fight for their lives. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people who would kill them all if they could. I am tired of the word genocide. Let me tell you about genocide. If Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could. This is not a hard choice if you're an American. It's not a hard choice if you're a Christian. A word of warning. If America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on us.
Well, I have to say that I'm on the side of Israel. I've been on the side of Israel really my whole life.
So there's a good chance that the third temple is a red herring. Could be real, could be legit, but I'm starting to hear more and more from people whose discernment I trust based on their track record, and this ties in with showing you how the Pope's going to be involved with the Antichrist reign, is you think about Project Bluebeam, you think about how they're going to try to trick people into believing that the Antichrist is, that we got it all wrong, this is the Messiah. So wouldn't it make more sense, and this is a theory that I'm hearing a lot of people, again, whose opinion I trust, and that is not easy for me to do. It's not commonplace. I judge a tree by its fruits, and I go by accuracy. So there are very few people that I follow, because most of them tell me everything I need to know. But wouldn't it make a lot of sense for the Pope to officially declare that Christ has come back? And that's what a lot of people are starting to believe, is that it's not going to be the third temple. That the Antichrist is going to seat himself on the throne in the Vatican and declare himself as Jesus Christ. And that will actually bring about the abomination of desolation, all the end times prophecies, plagues, and hardship. But to close out, I'm going to show you the laws put in place well over 30 years ago that will show you beyond a shadow of a doubt that all this right, left, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat nonsense has always just been a distraction. Masonic theater. These people work together, have been plotting against us, wolves in sheep's clothing, cozying up to us, making it look like they're our friends while they're plotting behind our backs. We're warned so many times to watch out for wolves in sheep's clothing. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, the rulers in high places, spiritual wickedness. Well, brace yourself. Be strong so you can see what we're up against, because the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, comes into the world as a conqueror to conquer. And this is what we're up against. In the final video, we're going to recap, make sense of all this, and I'll show you the best path forward as I've had years to marinate on this. Accept it and see the good in it. But I thank you for watching this video. God bless you and your loved ones, and I'll see you in that finale.
So, Donald Trump, within the last few days, has been invited to attend the International Divine Court by the Jews. And they're trying to establish, said something along the lines of adopting internationally the Noahide laws. Remember that rabbi who spoke at his inauguration? Said something along the lines of adopting the Noahide laws internationally. The number one Noahide law is thou shalt not worship any idols other than God. Jesus Christ is considered an idol. And if you break a Noahide law, it's punishable by capital punishment. Capital punishment means decapitation. So worshiping Jesus Christ would be considered breaking the first Noahide law. So if Trump has been invited to the International Divine Court to help institutionalize these laws internationally, and if it succeeds, which it seems like it will, between him and Elon Musk with these brain chips and the beast system playing out right before us, guys, that means that it's going to be time to profess your faith in Jesus Christ and be ready to basically lose your head for him. You're a non-believer even so, either way. You see this world is insane right now. But if this becomes international, the Noahide laws, which it looks like it's going to, you're going to have to denounce Jesus or die for Jesus. Please share this, because I don't think enough people realize what's going on. There's a lot of distraction with the DOJE and laying off and DI hires, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of fluff, but nobody's really talking about this. Okay, this is serious. Okay, and if this happens, it's going to be very soon. Revelations is clearly unfolding right before our eyes. You guys, and Jesus is the only one and true only Savior. He says there's no way to the kingdom except through him. So now would be the right time to get right with Jesus.